I gave Maria Farmer the big build up. I won't do so again, except to say I have been so impressed by her courage and clarity from the beginning, the first victim perhaps, and the first person to report to the FBI, the pernicious pair, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And I'm glad to say Maria joins us again now in the week when Ghislaine Maxwell will be sentenced. Maria, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you think should happen to Ghislaine Maxwell this week.
Well, I would really like to see her spend the rest of her life in prison. But I also would like to see not only Ghislaine spend the rest of her life in prison, I'd like to see her stay alive. And I have a concern because the Southern District of New York, who's sort of in charge of all of this, they are in charge. They've known about Ghislaine and her antics since 1996 because the FBI gave them all the information. That's how it works. So people sometimes don't understand why I'm so upset with the Southern District. And it's because they then feigned to have never heard of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell until Julie Brown, who is a writer and a journalist, right, for the Miami Herald. And basically, I just think I would like to see her stay alive and spend the rest of her days in prison while I have a beautiful view and Virginia has a beautiful view and the rest of us do. Yes, that's what I would like.
Well, she might, to her very great surprise, commit suicide. Indeed, this very night, she's on a suicide watch.
Right.
Because, the Southern District of New York, let's face it, is Clinton territory.
Yes.
And the Clinton crime family have very great influence there. And they have a vested interest in Ghislaine Maxwell not trading names for a reduction in her sentence, don't they?
They do. They have a great interest in it. And, you had mentioned this before. Not one of the men who assaulted these children has been arrested. Not one of the people that worked beside Ghislaine to harm children and young women and vulnerable people, not one has been arrested. And so that's why I've remained vocal. That's why not new survivors, but survivors who didn't want to have to come out, like George Tonks, that's why he's come forward, because the main person behind all of this is Leslie Wexner. And Leslie Wexner he's gotten off scot-free, and we don't understand it. So he must have so much power, either through the CIA or the Southern District. We just don't know what position he holds, but he's in the middle of everything. And he owns Southern Air Transport. I mean, he owns the CIA airlines, right? And, my lawyers had talked to me about that ages ago. And I just think that Brad Edwards in his book says that he believes that Epstein was CIA. And if you remember that picture of Ghislaine where she was reading a book, it was the only picture that came out when they were looking for her. They knew exactly where she was. And I know that because the FBI told me they always know where everyone is at all times, internationally as well. They did tell me that. That's what Nesbitt Kirkendall said. So she kind of giggled when I asked how they found me in the woods off grid. And, but what's interesting is basically, Ghislaine's trying to, I think, pull something. They had my sister come, the victims who testified all showed up, or I believe are all there right now to read their statements. And they're going to have Ghislaine not show up, and they're not going to be allowed to read any statements. So it's like we just never get justice. That's what it feels like.
So Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team, they tried to stop these victim statements from being read. Is that correct?
I was going to ask you if I could read mine.
Yes, you are more than welcome, please.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you know what? I can't because it's on my phone. So I can't actually read it. I'm sorry. But basically,
Well,
I told,
where can people read it? Have you put it on your social media?
okay, so that's interesting. I had to go off of social media. This is something that people should know about. We survivors are being really poorly treated on social media, so most of us aren't on there. I had to go off because of a couple people that claim they're journalists, but they're not actually journalists because they're tormenting survivors with lymphoma. They've specifically singled out the two of us who survived Wexner and are fighting lymphoma. And so I just kind of wonder what's going on with that. But anyway, I can't use any social media because of these people, because they have all these fake accounts and fake followers that they have tormenting us. And so we just can't even use it, to the point where they're trying to assist Guylaine in getting exonerated. These trolls that are pretending, and that's the thing, please don't buy any books written about Jeffrey Epstein, I want to tell your audience, unless they're written by one of the lawyers or one of the survivors, because every one of our trolls right now has a book on Jeffrey Epstein, and there's a new one coming out. And the other thing is, there was a lot of lies coming out about Leslie Wexner, in my opinion, coming out in the Hulu documentary, and you should boycott that, because that was not a good experience. I should not have participated. I was manipulated, in my opinion. So anyway,
Well,
the point is,
of course,
it's been a rough ride for the survivors. It's not like what people think. Like, basically, Virginia deserves the world because she's been through it. I mean, nobody understands what she's been through. This is the strongest woman alive, and she's a fighter, and she's a beautiful soul. And even though she's been through all those horrible things, she's kind. She's very kind. And, so like the trolls who are currently writing a book and who are going to publish their book during, I think, when the Hulu documentary comes out, I'm assuming, they don't even have an ounce of class. And that's the one thing that at least Julie Brown and Vicky Ward had 1 ounce, not more, but they have 1 ounce. But they have tormented, like Vicky Ward has tormented me for almost 26 years, over 24 years now. And she recently sent a threat letter to my lawyers. I mean, I take it as a threat. It's a legal letter telling me to shut up. I never discuss her. So then I'm going to discuss her because she's culpable for what happened, because she never wrote about it. And so all those girls ended up suffering. And so the other thing is, Julie Brown takes credit for the whole case, but Julie Brown had nothing to do with this case. I went to the FBI in 1996. I hid because I had to go to the FBI and hide from the Clintons, right? The sitting president, and the Trumps, and all of them. I had to hide from them. And so people want to change history, right? They're really trying. They're trying to cast aspersions on all the survivors. They're investigating me. I mean, I had my graduate school investigate me. Why didn't they do that 30 years ago? Why are they doing it now? Why are all these people defaming me? And you have to wonder why they're supporting Guylaine and who's paying them. That's what I always wonder, because I found out through this thing, everything ends up to be about money. And Ghislaine Maxwell is is the most dangerous woman I've ever met. And these trolls are trying to have her exonerated. It's mind-boggling. I don't understand it. So I believe that she will spend the rest of her life in prison if she gets a life, right? If they actually allow her to stay alive.
Well, look, Maria, if you send us your victim statement, we'll find a way to showcase it either on our website or our Twitter handle or on screen if we get it in time.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
Need to make the point
I'll send you
that,
both mine and my sister's.
Yeah. We'll be happy to do that. The only two people that were ever charged in this regard were Epstein and Maxwell, and the only convicted one is Maxwell.
That's right.
Wexner is not facing charges. He's not here to answer the points that you made about him. And of course, we make ourselves available if he wants to comment.
That would be
if he
wonderful.
wants to answer the points that you've made about him. So please, Mr. Wexner, if you feel you've been wronged by what Maria Farmer has said, by all means, enter the lists and we'll give you all the time you want.
Yes.
The offences against you, as I understand it, took place at Leslie Wexner's ranch. Is that right?
That's right. It was on his New Albany estate in New Albany, Ohio. And I was watched on cameras by his wife and his family, or whomever in their home, whoever felt like watching me 24 hours a day under video surveillance. I was told by Ghislaine and Jeffrey that the pinhole cameras were ubiquitous in the home. If I went to the restroom, Ghislaine would call me and tell me to get out of the loo, because she needed to speak to me at that moment, because she was watching me from New York. And I developed a very severe health condition from the trauma of being at that estate. And I know it happened then because, number one, some amazing doctors told me that it had been 23 years. And at that point, that the brain tumor had grown. And at that point, I was like, I was a health nut, by the way. I've always been really careful with my gut and what I take into my body. And I was an athlete. So to suddenly be very, very sick I got sick at that estate. When I left, my father was shocked because I couldn't get off of the sofa for literally days on end, even to shower. So I got hit with this phenomenal fatigue at Leslie Wexner's house. And my life was threatened by his right-hand man, Randy Bowie. And so, yeah, I would love it if he would come on and explain himself, because he's been into this business of harming children since at least the 80s, we know. We've been able to track it to at least the 80s. So, through his survivors. And I'm not the only survivor.
Well, as I say,
he's a survivor.
He's
also has a lymphoma.
Yeah, as weird, I say, he's not here
we're really trying
answer.
to.
Sorry, Maria. He's not. Maria, he's not here to answer these things, and so I have to make that point that he's not charged with any crime. He is the apparently respectable head of Victoria's Secret, a worldwide business. He's a very rich and powerful man. I don't know if he's litigious. Maybe he doesn't want to get into litigation, but I have to make
he's extremely litigious.
That he's not here.
So for my first interview, I interviewed with CBS.
All the more reason why I need to stop you. If he's extremely litigious, you've made serious allegations against him.
Yes.
All I can do now is reiterate that Leslie Wexner is welcome on the show, or to send a statement to the show answering the very serious allegations that you have made against him. Maria Farmer, thanks for joining us as always. Maybe come back and tell us once we know the result in the court. We'll talk again.